おじいさまにとって、ベアトリーチェという女性が、どれほど人生の大部分を占めてきたか、分かった気がします。
She was the catalyst of his life.
何も分かってなんかいねえ。ベアトリーチェを誰が殺したか。それが分からなきゃ、俺たちはいつまでもここから出られねえ。
Define which Beatrice exactly are we speaking of? Because we pinpointed that there is 3 Beatrices.
早く終わらせなければ、葬儀はもう終わっているのですからね。
ちげえな。葬儀なんだ。これがな。
私たちのさせられていることがですか？
これまでに聞いたどのベアトリーチも殺されてなどいない。それは俺たちが殺されたことにしようとしているベルンカステルにとっては、これこそが本当の葬儀だ。
誰も殺されたことを知らない。それを私たちが暴こうとしている。
お前、つくづく察しがいいな。仮想の駒と話してるとは思えん。俺のワトソン役として与えられた駒だからか。いって。
Something is, this girl really loves fucking with the ass.
相棒を駒呼ばわりとは失礼な方です。
She probably would like to peg Will.
さあ、次は何を？ウィラード・ホームズ？
捜査の基本は聞き込みだろう。まだ聞くべきベアトリーチは残っている。
Oh, there's Jessica. To indicate who they should talk to next, Will nodded in the direction of George, Jessica, and Maria. Maria seemed to be lecturing the others about something.
すごいんだね、ベアトリーチは。
伏せたカップの中にね、魔法でキャンディーをいっぱい生み出してくれたの。
伏せたカップの中に？そりゃすげえぜ。確かに魔法だ。
マリアちゃんは魔女とか魔法とかそういうものが大好きですから。
魔女の権威に話を聞かないわけにはいかねえな。
If looking for someone to ask about Beatrice, Maria would rise to the top of the list. The Beatrice she spoke of wasn't the real Beatrice spoken of by Kinzo and the others. However, on the Rokkenjima of 1986, the being that the name Beatrice referred to was probably the Beatrice that Maria always talked about.
バトラの姿が見えないな。
Ushiromiya Batora, the one who was made to fight as Beatrice's opponent in many games, and the most important person in this game and this tale. A battler in this world would probably be the peace version, but even so, it should be possible to get some vital information out of him. Like what? Even as he's an idiot. Will probably wanted to talk with Battler too, but he was nowhere to be seen in the cousins group.
バトラ君は今回の葬儀には欠席しています。最も年の近いいとことして残念です。
仲はいいのか？
ええ、もちろん。
バトラが何かスケベな出現をするたびに
おや、よくご存知で。推理は可能でしたか？
バトラに同情する。
That's funny. But if he's gonna be a pervert, then you might as well fight fire with fire, I guess. Berncastel said that everything was gathered here. Since Battler isn't here, that probably means it's possible to find out everything without asking for his side of the story. Or maybe she's intentionally hiding the core elements and making us take the long way around as part of some fickle witch game. I don't mind that actually.
いねえってことは、とりあえず今は奴の話を聞く必要はねえってことだ。マリアたちに話を聞こう。スケベな話はしねえからな。尻をつねるんじゃねえぞ。
ならほんの少し言葉を選ぶだけでいいのに。
With a roguish smile, Leon pinched the air, index finger against middle.
おや、次期当主様だぜ。
Index
じ
finger
じいの
against
介護
middle.
はもういいのかよ。
At least Leon is impartial. No mercy, even for Jessica. Damn, his own sister? Or her, I mean, Will felt a bit gratified.
そうか。クラウスの子で次期当主ということは、ジェシカは妹に当たるんだな。
He was so used to Jessica being an only child that, though the scuffle between the two looked perfectly natural, something didn't feel quite right about it. And I did have the theory that they were maybe a split personality, but I guess they are two people.
もう少し妹らしい言葉遣いはできないのかい？ついでに言うと、もう少し年頃の女性らしい言葉遣いにも気をつけてみるべきだね。あと、次期当主様なんて呼び方は嫌いだっていつも言ってるよ。
うせえぜ。私は私らしく生きちゃら。次期当主様みてえにお上品に生きてたら息が詰まっちまわ。やめて、つねんないで。妹いじめ変態、反対、痛い痛い。
ジェシカ、お客様もいらしているというのに、どうしてまた母さんに言いつけられたいかな？
あれは
Damn, no mercy.
仲睦まじいな。
リオンは次期当主として火の打ちどころのない素晴らしい人だからね。ま、素晴らしすぎてジェシカちゃんの気持ちもちょっぴりわかるかな。
何をしても比較される。だからグレルと。
もしジェシカちゃんが一人っ子として生まれてたら、きっと落ち着きのある真相の令嬢になってたと思う。
Oh yeah, right. Also, I'm thinking Leon is pretty much everything that Kraus and Natsuki wanted Jessica to be.
それは面白い想像だね。
安心しろ。あの性格は一人っ子でも変わらね
ジョージお兄ちゃん、この人誰？
あなたとは初対面ですよね。でも後ろ宮家にはお詳しそうだ。僕はジョージ、彼女はマリア。よろしく。
ウィル、
He's so polite.
ベアトリーチェについて調べている。知っていることを聞かせてほしい。
Okay, let's see what they know. Oh, I know that's gonna make her go crazy.
ほらね、ベアトリーチェはいるの。
Yes. But her Beatrice is different from Ginzo's Beatrice. Okay. Ooh. Though Maria had looked hostile towards this unfamiliar man, as soon as she heard the name of the witch she loved pass his lips, her eyes began to sparkle.
ほら、マリアちゃん。お客様にちゃんとご挨拶をしないと。
こんにちは。後ろ宮マリアと申します。ベアトリーチェを知ってる人がいて嬉しい。握手。
Maria suddenly stuck out her small hand, and Will reached out for it reflexively. Oh, is that shit gonna do something? As soon as he did, he felt a bright light seeping out from the gap between their hands. The theater-going power that Bernkastel had given him had affected Maria.
ベアトリーチェはね、六軒島の魔女なの。いつもね、マリアが六軒島に来るたびに一緒に遊んでくれるの。マリアのね、一番のお友達で、マリアージュ・ソルシエールの仲間なの。
The light grew brighter and brighter. This time, he could feel himself being drawn into Maria's world. Wow. And Erica wanted to take that away from her. Oh, there we go, bitch. I haven't seen her like that in a while. I'm Ushiromiya Maria. My mama is Rosa. My papa. I don't have a papa. I think I remember mama showing me a picture long ago and saying, "This is your father." It was a picture of a man with a dark suntan on a beach wearing a swimsuit. Later on, when I learned what papa meant, I asked mama to show me that picture again, but she said there wasn't any photo like that. Oh, she's lying, but there was. I drew a picture of it and showed it to Mama. When I did, she got really mad and said the photo didn't exist, or that if it did, she had already thrown it away. Ever since then, she kept saying that I didn't have a papa.
知ってる？パパとママがいないと赤ちゃんができないって言われてるけど、それは嘘なんだよ。
処女解体か。
ミヨ、乙女が身ごもって男の子を産むであろう。
How?
その名はインマヌエルなり。マリアはもし男の子に生まれていたなら、それが名前だったかもしれない。
Okay.
マタイ伝1章20節。
違うよ、23節。20節はかくてこれらを思い巡らすとき、御使いが夢に現れていった。ダビデの子ヨセフよ、妻マリアを迎えることを恐れるな。その腹に宿るものは精霊によるものなり。
お前の父親は精霊だというのだ。
Huh.
パパがいるのが当たり前だとみんなに言われた。パパがいないなんておかしい、変な子だ、かわいそうな子だと言われた。でもママに聞いてもパパなんかいない、知らない、存在しないと言われた。聞くだけで怒られた、叩かれた。だからマリアは自分が誰から生まれたかよくわからなくなった。マリアは人間として正しくない、未熟で不正な存在。みんなとは違う、おかしな、かわいそうな子だと気がついた。
親も他人も関係ねえ。お前はお前だ。
それを未熟な幼児に教えるのはきっと難しかったろうね。ひょっとしたら幼稚園の先生はいじめられて泣く私にそう諭してくれたのかもしれない。でもそんな慰めでは私の心の空白、疑問、どんな言葉も私の疑問に答えてはくれなかった。
その疑問に答えたのがザ・ブックだ。
神父様がね。
A priest? I think his sermon was part of a class to enrich our minds. To most of us kids, it was no different from an ordinary fairy tale a teacher could have told us. No, it was harder to understand, and I think that made us bored. Then at the end, the priest said something important.
神は何でも知っているか。
だからマリアは聞いた。マリアにはママしかいない。パパはない。パパがなくてもマリアはママから生まれてきた。それはおかしくて悲しいことなのって。
The priest taught me. He said there was nothing strange about a child having no papa. After all, Jesus Christ was born of a virgin. And the one who gave birth to him was the Blessed Virgin, Maria. Oh, is that where she got her name? I was surprised. Maria, the name I was giving, was the answer all along.
だからマリアはびっくりして神父様に聞き直したの。聖母マリアは一人で赤ちゃんが産めたんだって。じゃあマリアも一人で赤ちゃんが産めるのって。
Well,
神父は何と答えた？
聖母マリアが赤ちゃんを身ごもれたのは聖霊のおかげだからって。マタイ伝1節20章講談。その腹に宿るものは聖霊によるものなり。またまたマリアはびっくりした。これはどういうことだと思う？
お前はこう解釈した。後ろ宮マリアには人間の父はいない。本当の父は聖霊だと。
regardless of what the Bible actually meant, the young, sad girl who had lost her sense of identity because of her lack of a father had finally created a way to understand herself.
それを知ったとき、私はなぜ他の子たちと自分だけが違うのかを理解したの。私をバカにするみんなはヨセフの子。でも私だけは違った。私はみんなより劣ってなんかいない。私は神の子、聖霊の子だった。帰っ ってママに話したよ。マリアにはパパなんていない。ママはママで、マリアは神様の力で生まれてきたんだよって。
It was probably painful for Rosa whenever Maria asked about her father. Why do I have no papa? When everyone else has a father and a mother. Every time she was asked this, Rosa flew into a rage and changed the subject. How absolutely pathetic. And now, somehow or other, Maria had independently found an explanation that satisfied her. She has no papa. She was a child of Mama and God. It isn't too difficult to imagine that Rosa, after hearing the explanation the young girl had found in the Bible, might have gone along with it, as though it were true.
ベアトは宇宙を生み出す最小の人数を2人だと言った。私はこれを両親がいないと子はなせないという意味だと感じた。その時、私は思ったの。ベアトは魔女だけれど、人間から生まれた魔女なんだって。ベアトは精霊の子じゃない。でも私は違う。ママだけから生まれた。精霊から生まれた。ベアトは私と一緒じゃなきゃ宇宙を作れない。でも私は、神は我らと共にある。私一人でも精霊と共に宇宙が作れる。ベアトは私を原初の魔女と呼んだ。そしてやがては一人で全てを生み出せる造物主になれるよと言ってくれた。私が一人で無から有を創造する。それをベアトが無限に膨らませる。園児はそれを受け継ぎ、語り広げる魔女の使徒だった。
マリアージュ・ソルシエルか。
1と無限は大きく違う。だからベアトは偉い。でも無と有の前には1も無限も同じ有でしかない。私は世界で一番の魔女。世界で一番偉い造物主になることを約束されていた子。マリアージュ・ソルシエールはそんな私を温める卵。私は後ろ宮マリア、神と共にあるマリア。
If we liken Maria's sense of identity to a universe, then this endless stream of words coming from her might be like the Big Bang. She spent so long tormented over how to interpret her lack of a father. Then, by chance, she saw a line in the Bible that seemed to affirm her existence, and she finally formed an understanding of herself. The sad girl, who had hated herself for being different from all of her classmates, finally found her own meaning. At that moment, Maria's universe, which had once been nothingness, was born as a clump of ultra-hot, ultra-high-pressured energy. Then, later on, she went to Rokkenjima, met the endless witch who called herself Beatrice, and the clump of energy exploded in a big bang, giving birth to their joint system of magic. That was the universe known as Mirage Sorcery. I haven't said that word in a while.
話が少し飛躍しすぎだ。順を追う。
いいよ。どこから？
自分が精霊の子だと解釈したお前に、そこから次第にオカルトに傾倒していくことは容易に理解できる。そこからだ。そんなお前がベアトリーチェとどこで出会い、どのように交流していったか。
それは本当にある日、突然の唐突なこと。六軒島に住まうベアトリーチェという魔女に私は会ってみたかったの。同じ魔女として。
その頃にはもう自分が魔女という自覚があった。
あった。その頃には聖書とオカルトでは大人にも負けないくらいの知識があったから。だから私は魔法は使えずとも自分を魔女だと信じてた。ちょっと滑稽だね。だから私は魔女見習いなの。
いつベアトリーチェと出会った？
よくは覚えてない。でもその出会いはよく覚えてる。それはとて てもとても唐突だった。
そなたが後ろ宮マリア。
It was such a very, very abrupt encounter. I had just been drinking some milk tea, all alone in the rose garden arbor. Mama said that she had to talk about something important with Uncle Kraus, so she told me to go outside and play. Suddenly, she was sitting right there. I didn't know anyone who spoke that way. I quickly realized that she was someone I didn't know at all.
あなたは誰？
会いたいと言ったのはそなただ。わらわの島に魔女が訪ねてくるから出迎えてやったというのに、そなたはわらわの名を問うというのか。
ベアリーチェ。
いかにもわらわがベアトリーチェである。
確かに唐突だな。
とっても。魔女や精霊はいつだって私たちのそばにいる。彼らが姿を見せようとしないだけで。そして彼らが姿を見せたなら、それはあまりに唐突に、そして当たり前にそこにいる。私はそれをまさに知ったの。
そしてベアトリーチェと友達ね。
彼女はママの用事が終わるまでずっと私とおしゃべりをしてくれた。魔法の話や魔女の話、マリアが精霊の子であることも。
その時のベアトリーチェの印象は？
こう言っては悪いけど、知識だけなら私が上だった。最初は彼女のことを大した魔女じゃないと見下しかけた。まあそれは私のうぬぼれ。魔法体験にはいろんなものがある。
Is that a big clue? Is that a big clue? I knew more than she did. Almost as if maybe that wasn't actually a witch.
ましてや私のそれは独学。ベアとの魔法体験とは異なったから、私が一方的にそういう印象を持ってしまったんだろうね。すぐにそれを後悔して謝ることになるの。
謝る？ベアトリーチェが何かお前の尊敬を勝ち取ることをしてみせたのか。なるほど、魔法を見せたというわけか。
We moved to the beach and talked lots, sitting at a table under an umbrella.
なるほど。マリア、そなたは実に勤勉だ。その年で千年の魔女のわらわにそれだけの講釈をできるとは、実に尊敬に値する。して、そなたは何の魔法を使えるのか。
魔法？
そなたが魔女を語るならば、魔法の一つも見せられるであろうが。
I was stunned for a second. Of course, it should have been obvious. I was a child of the Holy Ghost, and since I'd studied so much of the occult, I was also a witch, not a human. Until that day, I had been so sure of both of those things. So when I was asked what sort of magic I could use, it left me in a daze.
魔法を知り、語るに至ってようやく見習いよう。そしてそれを魔法という形で実践できてこそ魔女というものではないか。
まだ魔女じゃないの？
よく学んでいる。そして類いまれな才能も感じる。そなたはやがてわらわなど足元にも及ばぬ偉大な魔女、あるいはそなたが言うように造物主の座にさえ上り詰めるだろう。しかしまだ幼く若いそなたはそう 見習いだ。魔女の見習いというところよ。
じゃあベアとは魔法を使うことができるの？
無論であるとも。魔法を使えずして魔女を名乗ることなどできぬわ。
すごい。見せて、ベアとの魔法見せて。
Until this day, Maria had never doubted the magic-related concept that she was the child of the Holy Ghost. However, no one had ever proven to her that a cult phenomenon actually existed. Maria could create a universe all by herself. However, she wanted to share it with a second person so that she could believe in it even more strongly.
かつてのわらわならば空に虹をかき、それを七色のキャンディーに変えて自由にかじらせることもできた。しかし今のわらわは姿を保つことさえ満足にできぬほどに衰えている。
さっき聞いた。あの鎮守の社のせいで力が出せないって。
力を取り戻すにはかなりの時間をかける。虹をキャンディーにしてやることは今はできぬ。
Hold up. Did I just get the confirmation? You can't use your full power because of the shrine. Are we talking about the Torii Gate that was in episode 1, or are we talking about the actual shrine that Shannon broke the mirror of?
しかしささやかな魔法にてその一端を見せることはできようぞ。
見たい。ベアとの魔法見たい。
よかる。しかしそなたにも協力を求めねばならぬぞ。先ほども言った。いかにそなたが汚れなき魂を求めた。人間はもはや汚れ、魔法を拒む毒素に満ちている。
聞いた。半魔法の毒素があるって聞いた。マリアの読んだ本には載ってなかった。だからそれを知ってるベアとはすごい。
Beatrice lifted up an empty teacup, then turned it around in front of Maria to show that there weren't any tricks or strings.
伏せたカップにキャンディーが現れる魔法か。
どうしてわかるの？ウィルはすごいね。魔女の使う魔法もわかるんだね。
魔女の魔法の基本だからな。
カップは何の仕掛けもない普通のカップだったよ。私は見たかった。本当の魔法を見たかった。
Maria had a desire. She had a desire to discover the occult in others, to help her believe that there was an occult side to herself. That's why she agreed to help Beatrice with her magic. She didn't want her own toxin to ruin her chance of knowing the miracles of magic.
よいぞ。さあ、そのカップを開けてみるがいい。
キャンディーだ。キャンディーだ。
わらわからそなたへの挨拶代わりと新しき魔女との出会いと友情にそれを贈ろう。
This was a true miracle of magic. For the first time, I felt shame and embarrassment at my conceit. I could feel the sense of omnipotence disappear. The idea that I was the child of the Holy Ghost and the most important and special person in the world. Instead of a child of the Holy Ghost who can't do anything, I'd rather be a witch who can use magic. I, Ushiromiya Maria, wanted to become a witch, starting off as a witch apprentice. Already, I was obsessed with Beato.
マリアも本当の魔女になりたい。ベアとの弟子になりたい。
謙遜を。そなたには十分な才能と日々の精進があるぞ。それにかつての力のあるわらわならともかくこの程度の魔法しか使えぬ衰えたわらわでは弟子を持つことなどできぬわ。
マリアは 魔女の弟子にはなれない？
うん。わらわの弟子にはできぬ。しかし、友人にはできる。
本
うん。わらわとそなたは、これより友人だ。これからも共に、深き魔女の世界を語り合おうではないか。
ベアト、ありがとう。このベアトのキャンディ食べてもいい？
いいや、それは土産にせよ。食べずに、そなたの可愛らしいカバンに収めよ。
お家で食べる。
マリア、そのキャンディーは魔法で生み出されたものだ。ゆえに、脆い。そなたがわらわの存在をその毒素で否定したなら。
やだ。ベアトからもらった大切な魔法消えるの嫌だ。
ならば、わらわという魔女に出会ったことそなたがわらわとのささやかな約束を守る限り、そなたがまたこの島へ来るとき、再びわらわがそなたを迎えようぞ。
守る。約束って何？
まずはそうだ。家へ帰ったら手を洗う。うがいをする。めんどくさがってはならぬぞ。魔女見習いの立派な修行の一つである。
守る。毎日お家に帰ってきたら手を洗う。うがいをする。そうしたらまた会ってくれる？
Those are odd things to command.
約束しようぞ。そなたがわらわとの約束をそなたの体は清められ、わらわもさらに魔力を取り戻す。さすれば次に来るときはより素晴らしい魔法を見せようぞ。
約束守る。絶対。マリアはなる。ベアトの友達になって魔女見習いになる。
良き心がけであるぞ、後ろ宮マリア。そなたが早く一人前の魔女になってわらわの良き友人に成長してくれることを
これが私の初めてのベアトリーチェとの出会いだったと思う。
そのもらった飴は家に帰ってもちゃんとあったか？
でもその存在を少しだけ疑ったから飴は溶けかかっていた。
Wow.
私は彼女を疑いかけたことを後悔したよ。もしもっと疑っていたら飴は消えてなくなっていたに違いない。そしたら私は目の当たりにした魔法の奇跡の証拠を失うところだった。
飴が溶けていたのか？
飴というよりはキャラメルだったと思う。溶けかかってぐにゃぐにゃだった。
Yes, I'm starting to think of this by two options, right? Let's say the magic does exist. If we're going this through the the magic side, then it would make sense, right? For the magic to be half melted because she started to doubt it. However, going it through the human side, let's say Beatrice was just someone dressed up as Beatrice. They gave her... Maybe this is like a setup. If this is someone dressed up as Beatrice, right, in preparation for the family conference, it would make sense that she would dress up as Beatrice, act like her, to start setting up Maria to believing that she is, so that once the family conference does start and she asks something of Maria, then of course she would say, oh, this Beatrice told me. And also, it was caramel, so obviously it would fucking melt.
それは何月頃の話だ？
詳しく覚えてない。でもミルクティーがアイスだったことは覚えてる。
Right, so this was a hot...
それが何？
なんでもない。ベアトリーチェに出会ったことはローザには話したのか？
It's obvious what they were getting at. They're very skillfully letting you know that, hey, this was probably someone dressing up as Beatrice.
その日のお夕飯の時にみんなに話した。クラウスおじさんに笑われた。そしたら隣の席のママにその話は終わりにしなさいって怒られた。
隣の席。序列上、お前の席はローザと隣り合わないはずだ。
親族会議じゃないもん。ママとマリアだけが訪ねた時の話。だからクラウスおじさん一家全員とママとマリアしかいない。
Well, that's kind of cute.
席は詰めるから親族会議の時とはお席がちょっと違うの。
うん。お前の隣の席にローザだったんだな。
うん。それが何？
なんでもない。ベアトリーチェとロッケン島以外で会ったことは？
ないよ。だってベアとは体が希薄で自由には動けないんだもの。
Yes, they're starting to build something. They're starting to build it to where, if this is the human side, right, Beatrice can't leave Rokkenjima. She always stays in Rokkenjima. She can't let anyone see her. But she knows her way around the islands.
マリアの体に乗り移ってもいいよって言ったけど、島からは離れられないからできないって言ってた。
Yes, because of the mirror.
その後はロッケン島へ行くたびに会っていたということだ。
うん。私たちは大の仲良しになった。ベアトと話せば話すほどに彼女は本当にすごい魔女だと思い知ったよ。彼女は会うたびにいつも素敵な魔法を見せてくれた。そして私とは異なる魔法体系を聞かせてくれて、二人で魔法の深淵を語り合ったよ。私は早く彼女の高みに登りたいと思った。ベアトのような魔女の域に達したいと願った。
ベアトリーチェを母親に紹介したことは？
ないよ。ママは毒素が強すぎるからまだ会えないって言ってた。
Really? Or Rosa, upon seeing Beatrice, could immediately tell who she was.
大人はほとんどダメだって。みんな汚れてるから。
Isn't that very convenient?
お前以外にベアトリーチェの姿を見ることができた者はいるのか？
最初は無理だった。魔力が弱いからね。毒素に少しでも近づくと体が壊れてしまうって。でも次第に魔力を蓄えてマリア以外の毒素の少ない人の前にも現れられるようになったよ。
それは誰だ？
あんまり多くない。使用人の一部の人だけだった。
具体的には？
今日いる使用人全員。大田さんは違うと思う。
Yes.
つまりゲンジ、シャノン、カノン、熊沢の。
And you know what's funny? The only ones Beatrice will appear to is the servants that have been here for the longest time, who, let's say, maybe know some secrets. Not the newest person on the block, Golda. Even after 2 years, not him.
あと南條先生も。
Wait a minute, she appeared to Nanjo? Or she didn't? Apparently, they would sometimes come to visit Maria and Beatrice's witch tea parties. Of course, it was only for small things, like bringing them extra tea. However, they were certainly aware of Beatrice and even talked with her.
使用人たちはベアトリーチェとはどう接していた？存在しないはずの客人だ。
I remember Ganon fought her
驚いてはしない
actually.
のか？
しないよ。だってベアトリーチェはお屋敷のもう一人の主だもの。
She said that the servants treated Beatrice as an honored guest, and sometimes they were permitted to witness the new miracle of magic along with Maria.
つまり1986年のロッケン島で ベアトリーチに実際に会えたのはゴーダを除く使用人4人とお前と南條の合計6人だけだったということか。
ベアトもそれ以外の人の前に現れるにはもっともっと魔力を蓄える必要があると言ってた。
つまりそれ以外の人間の前にもやがては姿を現すつもりだったわけか。
全ての人間たちに自分を認めさせる日こそが自分の復活の日だって言ってた。
Well, killing him will be one way of forcing them to acknowledge her. Maria, the servants, and Nanjo had acknowledged her. She had probably chosen those humans whose anti-magic toxin was weakest and appeared before them first. Beatrice's game must have been so to steadily increase the number of humans who could recognize her, until she could make everyone on the island acknowledge her. In that case, the last person for Beatrice to appear in front of would be Battler, the one who'd have the strongest anti-magical power. Does this mean Beatrice thought that Battler would be the hardest one to convince? It seems true that Battler was one of Beatrice's goals. However, if we go with Battler's chessboard thinking, we might say that Beatrice, who wanted others to acknowledge her existence, was someone who could not exist unless she was acknowledged. Battler reached this thought himself back in the first game. Yes, there is something different about Beatrice of 1986. She's different from the Italian Beatrice or the Ecuadorian Beatrice, both whom certainly did exist. The Beatrice of 1986, the one whom we are so familiar with in a mysterious way, yet who has no existence. What does it mean to kill the Beatrice who has no existence? To deny her existence? I guess. The minimum number of people required to create a universe is 2. However, Maria had said that even a single person could give birth to a universe. And yet, Maria had desired a second person to nurture the world she had given birth to alone. Because if it was born and not nurtured, it would die and disappear? Let's replace the word universe with Beatrice. The minimum number of people required to create Beatrice is 2. However, even a single person couldn't give birth to her. And yet, that single person desired a second person. A second person to acknowledge the Beatrice created by the first. That meeting with a second person is the scene that Maria had just described. Wait a minute, are they trying to say that someone pretended to be Beatrice and they needed Maria to acknowledge that fact? The creation, the single person who created Beatrice, had looked for a second person to acknowledge Beatrice and selected Maria, which would be the easiest. We don't need Furudo Erika's heartless reasoning to know that the teacup magic was a sleight of hand. Maria believed in the story about the anti-magic toxin would close her eyes whenever magic happened. Any sleight of hand would be possible while she had her eyes closed. The caramel Maria had been given as proof of her meeting with a witch had melted a little because Maria had doubted. In a season where one was likely to put ice in their tea, it was only natural for a caramel left in a bag to melt. Oshiromiya Maria, the girl who is too trusting and will accept a story easily. Beatrice appeared first in front of this girl, who had, in the language of witches, very little of the anti-magic toxin. If we liken the creation of Beatrice to the laying of an egg, then when a single person creates her, it is no more than a delusion, like a chick inside the egg. And if only if a second person acknowledges her, then that shell cracks and she appears. She only appears when a second person comes to warm the egg. When Maria acknowledged Beatrice, she finally hatched and the chick was born. In that case, Mariage sorcery, which nurtured Beatrice and her system of magic, was like a nest. Beatrice had a dignified presence, called herself the Witch of Rokkanjima, and claimed to have lived 1,000 years. Think about the Beatrices who appeared in previous games. This sounds less like a chick Beato and more like Beato the Elder. Let me read that again. In that case, Mirage sorcery, which nurtured Beatrice and her system of magic, was like a nest. Beatrice had a dignified presence, called herself the Witch of Rokkenjima, and claimed to have lived 1,000 years. Thinking about the Beatrices who appeared in the previous game, this sounds a lot like... less like the chick and more like Elder Beato. So does this mean that the meeting Maria had just spoken of marks the birth of Beato the Elder? The egg itself had already been created by the first person. During the time before the meeting with Maria, it matured fully inside its shell, becoming the character with a dignified presence of 1,000 years. Then, when Maria acknowledged it, it hatched, and the Witch of Rokkenjima finally gained a form. Perhaps that moment marks the birth of the Beatrice of 1986. Let me read that again. The younger, Chick Beato, was born out of love for Battler. Since that birth has not yet occurred at this point in time, then the birth of Beato, the Elder, and the existence of Beatrice at this time must have nothing to do with Battler. Are you enjoying this reasoning, Berncastel? If you are, let's at least have some applause from the audience. Okay, so Berncastel is approving of this.
マリアはベアトに魔法で叶えてほしい願いがたくさんあるの。だからベアトが復活するのに協力してるの。
願いとは何だ？
いっぱいある。内緒。
黒き魔女からママを守ってほしい。
ウィルは何でもわかるの？すごいよ。
魔女に願わねば取り戻せない世界だ。お前は思っているのか？
ママは大好き。優しい。いつまでも一緒にいたい。永
遠に。今度マリアージュ・ソルシエールについて聞きたい。どうした？
やだ。
何？
私、喉が渇いちゃったから、ジュース飲んでくる。またね。
Wait a minute, wait. I'm sorry if I'm blanking. Now I'd like to hear about Mirage Sorcery. She doesn't want to speak about that. Maria suddenly started acting distant, bowed her head, and left without a warning for a reply. Without waiting. It was a very un-Maria-like thing to do. Alright, Will. I see. So the game master has moved the piece. Apparently, she's telling me to ask about something different for now. At some point, Leon had started chatting with the other family members. Jessica seemed to be getting irritated at having her butt pinched so much, and George was trying to calm her down. George and Jessica, or whatever. Guess I'll hear their stories next. Compared to Maria, the anti-magic toxin is very strong in these two. At least at the beginning of the other games, they didn't acknowledge Beatrice. Maria showed me the point of view of one who believes. Now to hear from those who don't. Dude, I so badly want to read all of these, but I don't think I have the time. You know what, fuck it. Just because I'm so addicted to this, because they're giving me so much, let's just keep going.
次期当主様のせいでお見苦しいとこを見せちゃって。
あざになってねえか。あいつマジで容赦ね
ジェシカ、何か言ったかい？何も。もう十分懲りたって。
Leon, who had apparently been chatting with the adult siblings, spun around with a smile and stared at Jessica. Looks like the older siblings firmly in control around here. So Leon is 19, right?
すごい地獄にまだな。ようやくリオンってやつが理解できてきた。
そうそうそうそう。昔から妙に勘が良くって。その上ほら、大人受けが妙にいいし、私は家でも学校でも比べられてる。
そういえばリオンは中学も高校も生徒会長だったね。バドミントンの部長もやってたよね。
行く先々でリオンと比較されてひでえ目にあったというわけだ。
私は中学に入って行ったぜ。その時はもう副会長やってた。来年は生徒会長になる気だろ。私の肩身が狭くなるからやめてくれって。でも翌年にちゃっかり立候補して当選しちゃいやがった。高校でもそう。今度こそやめてくれって言ったのに、その時点でもまた副会長で、また3年になるのと同時に会長になりやがった。父さんはちやほやちやほや、母さんはあなたも妹として恥ずかしくないよ頑張りなさいってチクチクチクチク。
Ah, she's frustrated and jealous.
そんなリオンの妹であることを誇りにも思ってるんでしょ。
別にそんなこと思ったことはねえぜ。ああ、ねえぜ。全然ねえぜ。
上が完璧だと息も詰まら。だが他人は他人、お前はお前だ。何も萎縮することはない。お前のしたいように精一杯好きにしたらいい。
もちろん。でも母さんたちは後宮リオンの妹として恥ずかしくないよ、後を引き継げってうるさい。生徒会に入れだの、バドミントンやれだの。
軽音楽はやっていないのか。
それは秘密。内緒。
Apparently, she's keeping it a secret from her family. Interesting. People often like to blame their family for what they've grown up to be like. But even in a different world, with a different family, the interests of the girl called Jessica are the same as ever. It's admirable that she has such a true and constant interest in something.
俺は好きだぞ。ペッタンペッタンとか、スイーツスイーツとか。
Nothing wrong with the extraordinarily accomplished sort, like Leon, but kids who act their age do have their charms.
そういう生き方が一番だ。謳歌しろ、青春を。
そりゃどうも。
Apparently, no one had ever told Jessica that they approved of how she lived, and the direct way Will had put it made her turn red and hang her head in embarrassment.
今度はお前たちに話が聞きたい。
さっきマリアちゃんとしていた？
そうだ。ベアトリーチェについて知っていることを聞きたい。
マリアちゃんはオカルトや魔女のことが大好きだからね。彼女にとってベアトリーチェはアニメのヒロインと同じ憧れの存在なんだよ。何か些細なことがあるたびにそれを魔女の魔法によるいたずらだと信じてる。
お前は大人だな。そしてそうは思ってもマリアには絶対に言わないところも大人だ。
当然さ。子供の夢は子供の時にしか見られない。その貴重な経験を尊重するのが大人の仕事だと思ってるよ。
お前とは話が合いそうだ。
George's position was that Beatrice was nothing more than a fairy tale. However, that phrase, respecting a child's dreams, is the adult thing to do. That might be worthy of further scrutiny. When she got a candy from Beatrice by magic, Maria probably got excited and told George and the others. Then, the adults followed his lead and positively went along with her story, as adults should. However, there could be other ways around this sort of reaction could occur, other than as an adult's response to a child's claims. For example, it could be an inferior's response to the claims of their superior. If Ginzo, tyrant of the Ushiromiya family, claimed that Beatrice existed and had revived, perhaps the other members of the family would positively go along with his story as his inferiors should. Though Beatrice only appeared directly in front of a limited number of people, it's probably safer to say that the concept of her existence penetrated deeply within the Ushiromiya family, even among those who had never seen her. However, no matter how deeply that concept penetrated, she was only viewed as a sort of fairy tale character. It would be necessary to transform the concept of the character from an imaginary fairy tale into reality. So, a person attempting to do this would need to perform something that could only conceivably be done by magic. And that something was a series of witch incidents that started with a nighttime window opening pranks played by Beato the Elder, and ultimately escalated to locked room murders. Beato the Elder referred to this, saying that the anti-magic power filling the mansion would be weakened bit by bit the more she made her existence known. Yes, by opening windows. Beatrice, why did you desire so greatly to make all others accept your existence? Because the imaginary becomes the truth if everyone accepts it? Because at that moment, the being called Beatrice will be acknowledged and will become human? In that case, before Beatrice is acknowledged by all people, she's less than human. She's furniture. Why would furniture want to become human? It feels like this was the theme of the previous game, because they want to gain the rights. Furniture cannot love. So they try to become human for the right to love. Really is quite simple. It's directly connected to the reason the chick Beato was born in the first place.
なるほどな。分かってはいるが複雑だ。
I can't ignore the hearts.
ベアトリーチェの葬儀に参加しておいてこんなことを言うのも申し訳ないけれど、僕も説明できるほどベアトリーチェという人物のことには詳しくないんです。申し訳ない。その話はここに住んでるジェシカちゃんの方が僕よりももう少しは詳しいかもしれない。そういえばジェシカちゃん、こちらの方を紹介したっけ？
いや、実はまだ。お客様がいらっしゃるってのに尻ばっかつねるどっかの誰かのせいできちんと挨拶もできなかったぜ。
A bit late, Jessica looked embarrassed for acting rudely in front of an unfamiliar guest. She cleared her throat and made a beautiful bow and didn't fit well with her normal attitude. She even lifted the corners of her skirt in a courtesy.
はじめまして、ジェシカと申します。本日は後宮家へようこそ。いや、お日柄もよく、
ミラードだ。ウィルと呼
べ。Jessica's greeting had been of the old-fashioned sort, so Will also treated her like an old-fashioned lady. He bent down on one knee, took Jessica's right hand, and kissed the back of it. Wow, okay. Not expecting her greeting to be returned in such an old-fashioned and formal way, Jessica turned red and was unable to speak. However, Will had returned the greeting in what he thought was a perfectly serious way, so he didn't understand what was making Jessica's face glow.
何かおかしいことをしたか？
いや、全然。
お前の知っているベアトリーチェの話が聞きたい。
That boy is the charmer. A glow leaked from Will's right hand, which was grasping Jessica's. This shit again. Looks like the theater-going power is having its effect on Jessica. Didn't mean for that to happen. Oh well.
ベアトリーチェのことだっけ？話してもいいけど、約束してくれる？絶対に笑わないって。今にして思うと、きっと寝ぼけてたんだと思うから。
お前は何を知っている？笑わない。聞かせろ。
いいよ。どこから話そうかな。
To me, the Golden Witch Beatrice is sort of like one of the 7 mysteries of the Ushiromiya family. You've heard of those, right? Almost all schools have a set of tall tales or ghost stories that get passed down. Like, on some days, the piano in the music room will start playing by itself, or the skeleton in the science room dances around at night. Everyone's heard of them, but of course, that doesn't mean they believe in them. The stories about Beatrice were the same. It was just one of those strange tales about our way too big mansion. The servants would sometimes talk about seeing things or whatever during their night patrols. Sometimes, I felt a bit annoyed about them turning my home into a place for ghost stories, but I didn't pay any more attention than that. That's how little it mattered to me. So, during my normal everyday life, I would completely forget about the name Beatrice. Of course, when that huge portrait was first hung, I was definitely creeped out. Even I tried not to meet her eyes after dark, so yeah, I don't blame the servants for finding it eerie. But that only lasted for a short while. I mean, I walked by that portrait every day. I gradually got used to it, and eventually bored of it. It was just a portrait that grandfather blew a bunch of money on, showing the mistress from his delusions. I was past caring.
だろうな。年に何度も来ない親戚連中ならともかく。
そういうこと。だから親族会議になると親戚たちが必ず肖像画の前で決まってベアトリーチェの話をする。だから定期的に思い出させられるのさ。
ベアトリーチェ、また遊びに来たよ。また新しい魔法を書いたの。後で見てね。
マリアちゃんは本当にベアトリーチェが好きだな。おじい様が肖像画を掲げて以来大喜びみたいだ。
あれ、エンジェは？
キリエおばさんと薬を飲みに戻ったよ。
No way!
エンジェは本当に体が弱えな。バートラとは大違いだぜ。
緊張すると体調を崩すタイプなんだよ。
No way!
僕も昔は遠足の日や映画の日なんかに限って体調を崩したりしたもんさ。
それに比べたらマリアはタフだぜ。新島からこっちに来るまでの間ずっとベアトリーチェの話三昧さ。ここしばらくずっとだけどちょっと行き過ぎだよな。
いいんじゃないかな。子供の想像遊びだよ。ジェシカちゃんは子供がサンタクロースに会ったことがあるって言い出したら嘘だって言っちゃうのかい？
まあそこまでは言わねえけどさ。
Maria kept on talking to the portrait as though it was an old friend. She promised to play with it later, and if she was talking to a living human, as if, fuck me. George, a man, seemed to think that this behavior from a younger member of the opposite sex was cute. But, to be perfectly frank, Jessica, who was the same sex as Maria, found this behavior a bit unpleasant regardless of Maria's age. At one time, even I was fascinated by anime heroines and other fictional characters. However, Maria's behavior seems to signify something more direct than mere fascination. It's something much more definite, more vivid. Am I the only one who notices something odd about her? I'll bet the others all notice too, but try to ignore it best of that adult dignity. No, try to ignore it because of that adult dignity George Nissan is always talking about. Fuck me.
申し訳ないね、諸君。当主様は高尚な研究で大変お忙しい。昼は書斎で取られると仰せだ。
Till a second ago, Ginzo's children were complaining that eating lunch with their father would give them indigestion. But now that they knew he wasn't coming, they started grumbling about how he should at least spare the time to come down during the annual family conferences.
それでは皆様、ランチを始めさせていただきます。 遠方よりお集まりの皆様をおもてなしできるよう、この号だ。腕によりをかけてご用意させていただきました。
No one's stomach would fail to rumble after hearing that from the great chef Goda. By the time the splendid dishes were laid out, everyone had stopped talking about Kinzo's absence. You know what? I feel like I've known these fuckers for so damn long now. It's been 6 months since I started this. It was now Anji's absence that was being discussed. Apparently, her stomachache had gotten so bad that neither she nor Kirie could make it to lunch. Uh-oh. Take her to the doctor.
ゴーダ、後でキリエさんに相談してお粥のようなものを用意するように。
ああ、気を利かせてくれてありがとう。本当にすまねえな。どうも緊張に弱い子みたいでな。
幼いうちはそんなもんや。吐いたりしないだけ可愛いもんやで。
ジョージはよく吐いたわね。
Holy shit, that was funny.
昔は本当に病弱だったのよ。ねえ。
昔の話は許してよ。
That was funny.
食事時にする話じゃないよ。
エンジェかわいそう。こんな美味しいご飯なのに食べられない？
かわいそうにな。元気になったらその分いっぱい遊んであげようぜ。
ダメ。マリアとは遊べない。
なんだよ。どうして？
だってマリアはベアトリーチェと遊ぶんだもん。だからエンジェとは遊べない。
Bitch,
ベアト
okay.
リーチェと遊ぶって、またどっかに一人で行ってぶつくさ独り言言いながら本を読んでるだけだろ。
Jessica slightly regretted that she hadn't been more tactful. However, she couldn't wipe away the uncomfortable feeling she got every time Maria talked about Beatrice. And that feeling slipped out through her words, bitch.
一人じゃないよ。ベアとも一緒だもん。
Where? Maria had been young, but she already knew how to read a person's tone. She immediately burst out in anger, drawing the attention of everyone in that motherfucking room. Okay, bitch, I think I'm getting better, even though I'm still sick. Normally, Rosa would have stopped her at this point. However, Rosa happened to have gone to the bathroom, so there was no one to calm Maria down. Isn't that funny?
ジェシカはかわいそうだね。毒素の塊だもの。ベアとはまだまだ魔力が弱いから、ジェシカの前になんか現れたら焼き散らされてしまう。
Well, I'm pretty sure that's what Jessica
でもね、
wants.
いつかきっとジェシカの前にも現れてくれるよ。誰の前にも。そして黄金鏡の扉を開いてもらうの。でも招かれるかわからないね。だけどマリアだけは連れて行ってもらえるの、黄金鏡に。でもジェシカはダメだよ。ジェシカはダメ。
Oh shit, you don't want to say that.
ベアトリーチェのことをバカにする無知猛昧愚昧曖昧愚かも極まれりの汚らしい毒素まみれの人間風情。
She's pissed because Jessica is pretty much denying what gives her happiness.
ベアトリーチェのことをバカにされた時のマリアと来たらまるで別人さ。
She curses your name.
なんてのもあったな。
二重人格。ああ、そいつは多分ぴったりな表現だろうな。あるいはそれがマリアにとっての理想の人格だったのかもしれない。
自分のなりたい。
So when she let that venom she unleashes that fucking venom, bitch.
なんで私のモットーを知ってんだよ。
Wait a fucking minute. I can't believe I completely forgot about that. Yes. Wait a minute. This is a big turning point. Wait. Now think about creating another self the way you want to be. Okay, first of all, is this other self Leon right now? Could it be Leon? The one they ideally want? Now then, was it episode 1, 2? It It was one or two where she had that conversation about Ganon, talking to him about what they just said. Creating another self, the real you, the one that you want to be. Wow.
難しく考えるな。頭痛になら。
Okay. That was something Jessica had once told Ganon, yes! She had been talking about how anyone can create another self that they can really grow to like. I think we heard those words somewhere near the beginning of the second game. Oh, okay. Now that I think about it, some very interesting topics have been talked about since very early on. Yes! Is this multiple personality a big thing?
自分が本当になりたい自分があるんだ。でもなれない。
Wait a minute. The person you want to be. Maybe that's who... No.
生活やしがらみの中に今の自分がいるからこそ、今の自分を変えるなんてことできやしないんだ。
そうだな。自分を変えると環境も変えるということだ。それは容易なことじゃねえ。
だから私は今の自分はそのままに、本当になりたい自分をもう一人生み出すことを思いついたんだ。
両家のお嬢様であることを強いられ窒息しそうな日々に、お前はなりたい自分を見出した。
だからって家で破天荒はできないさ。母さんに怒鳴られるのがオチだぜ。だからそうした。家にいるおとなしく親の言うことを聞く私に加え、本当になりたい私をもう一人生み出したんだ。
家ではおとなしく親の言うことを聞き、表ではやりたいようにやる。正しい生き様だ。胸を張れ。
ありがとう。まあつまりなりたい自分ってのはその気になりゃ案外作り出せるもんなんだよな。マリアも同じなんだろうと思った。
興奮してまくし立てるマリアもそうだというのか。
あれこそがマリアのなりたいマリアなんじゃないかなって、そう思うことがあるよ。
親族で一番の年少で可愛がられてはいるが、尊敬されているわけではない。
何を知っても覚えても、そんなのは親族の誰かが知ってる。マリアに言われることは何もない。私たちはマリアが何かを覚えるたびに微笑ましく褒めてたつもりだけど、ひょっとしたらそれが彼女を傷つけていたのかもしれない。
マリアは何かの権威になりたかったということか。
It's something that all young boys and girls who want to shake off their childhood think. It's not a bad feeling when you learn something new and your parents praise you. But when you realize that your parents already knew that thing, it sometimes feels like they're talking down to you. When a kid learns their one-digit times table, their parents will probably praise them. However, inconsiderate parents will sometimes ask me questions like, then what's 11 times 11? Or what is 16 times 16? Or something similar. If that happens, the kid will lose his feeling of accomplishment and start to feel as though he could never surpass his parents.
だからマリアが誰も知らないオカルトに関心を持ち、その知識を深めていったのは容易に想像できる。多分マリアにとっての理想の自分というのは、みんなに尊敬されるオカルトの権威の自分なんだ。
普段の生活でオカルトの話ばかりしていたら老罪に打たれるからな。お前がそうであるのに、普段はもう一人の自分を隠しているというわけだ。
私はこんな時のマリアをそうだと思ってる。いや、本当の自分が普段の自分を塗りつぶしてしまったと言うべきかな。私もそういうのをちょっと覚えが。真相の霊場に憧れて病弱な自分になれたらいいなと思って、咳する真似ばっかしてたら悪い癖になって。
咳込めば周りが優しくしてくれるからか。
いや嫌な話の流れになった時とか空気悪い時とかに流れを断ち切れるし。
なるほど。それもまたお前のなりたいもう一人の自分なんだろう。
この話は内緒で頼むぜ。
Then, just what is the other self in Maria's case? An authority on the occult who can out-argue even adults? Or else, someone who converses and mingles that with witches? Either way, denying Beatrice in front of Maria is clearly taboo. In her search for something more than her everyday life, Maria had found it in Beatrice and inside herself. Then, is going to the Golden Land with Beatrice Maria's wish? Obviously.
まあそんな感じでローザおばさんが戻ってくるまでマリアは癇癪を起こしちゃって、よせばいいのに私も売り言葉に買い言葉で返しちゃって。
ベアトリーチェなどいるわけないと。
そんなとこいるもんなら合わせてみろよって。マリアが大泣きしだした頃にはさすがに失言が過ぎたかと後悔もしたぜ。
それで
親族会議自体は私が一方的にマリアに対しギスギスして終わり。マリアはケロリとしてたよ。一人でどこかに行ってまたベアトリーチェと一緒に遊んでたうんぬんと楽しそうに語ってたから。私を含め誰も頭ごなしに否定したりなんかしない。もうそういうものなんだと思って聞き流して無視してるってのが正解さ。
親族会議の話はそれで終わりなのか。
この話自体はね、私がしたいのはこれが終わって親族がみんな帰ってからの話さ。
Oh shit, okay. After. Oh, bitch, the wind. Even after the conference ended, I still felt a bit uncomfortable. Creepy ass atmosphere, and I love it. If Maria had just stayed mad, we'd have made up with each other, and I could have put it all behind me. But since Maria got over it, I felt like I was the only one unsatisfied.
おやお嬢様、どうなさいましたか？お暗い顔をして。
ああ、熊沢さんか。いや別に大したことは。親族のみんなは無事に帰ったかな。
時間通りならもう新島の空港に着かれているでしょう。お嬢様もお疲れ様でございました。
私は何もしてねえぜ。使用人のみんなも本当にお疲れ様。
昨日のマリア様との喧嘩をまだ気にしておられるのですか？
まあね。
子供の言うことではありませんか。お嬢様ももう高校生なのですから深く気にすることもないでしょうね。
熊沢さんはマリアのあれ、子供の言うただのザレ言だと思ってる？
ベアトリーチェ様のお話でございますか？
熊沢さんもベアトリーチェ様と来たもんだ。
Yeah, she's putting respect on her name. She's referring to her as higher than herself. Beatrice is the name of grandfather's mistress, the person he's still infatuated with. I realize that, as a servant, Kumasawa can't speak of her indiscreetly. Still, that's now become the name of the fictitious witch who lives in the mansion. And it's almost normal for people to call her Sama. Yes.
ベアトリーチェなんて私たちが森へ行かないよう大人がでっち上げた階段だぜ。
Well, maybe she became that.
それをいつの間にかマリアが面白がって本当にいるかのように振る舞い出しやがった。
You know what's funny? I guess in a way, is this what the game is trying to tell me? All of these things, they are true. It's just that without love, you cannot see them. Maria and how she infers who Beatrice is. How I guess the family members, the adults, see Beatrice as either this mistress or this ghost story. The servants see her as.
そんなことを言っては罰が当たりますよ。
It's just different points of views.
ベアトリーチェ様はいるのですから。
だからさ、そういうのダメなんだよ、生理的に。ジョージ兄さんの話じゃねえけどさ、サンタなんかいるわけねえとまで騒ぎはしねえぜ。だからって、サンタが本当にいるわけじゃね
それは間違いですよ、お嬢様。
間違い？
はい。万物、八百万には神様が宿っておられます。
Again, sorry, I just want to look at this really quickly. We both know it isn't true. I don't need George to tell me not to make a fuss about Santa not existing, but that doesn't mean Santa actually exists.
同じように、この島、このお屋敷には神様と同じくベアトリーチェ様も敬っていれば何も害はなしません。お嬢様の言うようにいないも同然でしょう。しかし敬いを忘れれば必ずや罰が当たります。これは何もベアトリーチェ様に限ったことではないのですよ。
罰が当たるなんて上等じゃねえか。会えるもんなら会ってみてえぜ。
お嬢様
Oh shit.
そんな罰当たりではいけませんよ。
I've said something similar to that, but obviously not about a witch. And I've had people react the same way. Oh, that's what you get, bitch? Talking this shit.
本日はお疲れ様でございました。
Her room about to be fucking shot with that lightning bolt.
シャノンにゴーダさんさ、ベアトリーチェの話は知ってるよな。
Alright, Shannon, can you do me a favor? Where is Shannon? And can you bring him here? Wait a minute.
まあ、存じているといえば存じておりますが、それが何か。
The two looked at each other. They looked like a pair who had just heard of a clueless person suddenly utter a forbidden word.
ぶっちゃけ聞くぜ。いるの？そんなお化け。
Uh-oh.
いるかいないかと言われれば、それはいないでしょうが、多分。
Oh, probably. Yo, he's trying to snake his way around it.
私はきっといらっしゃると思います。
You know what? That's interesting. You know what? I gotta say something. I'm starting to believe that maybe Shannon picked up Beatrice. Right. Picked up her legend.
どうしているって？会ったことあるの？
直接会ったことがあるわけじゃありませんけど。
Shannon talked in detail about how she would sometimes feel a strange presence or see a silhouette while doing the midnight rounds. Ooh, I love this. Jessica dismissed each example as it was given, saying Shannon must have seen it wrong or been mistaken.
ゴーダさんだって会ったことあるわけじゃないだろ？
もちろんですとも。しかし、まあ。
He was being very evasive. Even a man as big as Golda was apparently unable to deny the existence of someone he'd never met. This really didn't sit well with Jessica. She was herself a resident of this mansion. They were acting as though someone else, someone she didn't know, was living here. Of course, she didn't like it.
ちょっと待った。今の話をもう一度。
と言いますと？
貴賓室の話ですか？
This fucking VIP room, bitch. I remember in episode 2, Beatrice stayed in there. Golda and Shannon had been recounting several ghost stories about Beatrice. One of those drew a reaction from Jessica.
そうそう。 今の貴賓室の話、面白いぜ。
Golda and Shannon glanced at each other. They hadn't been trying to talk about anything cool.
貴賓室には午前2時に入ってはいけないですか？
Oh shit, what the fuck?
午前2時にはベアトリーチェ様が貴賓室にお戻りになるので、近づいてはいけないですか？
What? I never heard of this shit.
そうそう、それそれ。面白いぜ。どの話も、ベアトリーチェらしきものを見たの聞いたのって体験談ばっかだけど、その話は違うぜ。午前2時に貴賓室に行けば、ベアトリーチェ様にお会いできるってわけだ。
それは、どうでしょう。
お嬢様、ベアトリーチェ様を悪く言った使用人には、たたりがあると言われています。ましてや、貴賓室はベアトリーチェ様のお部屋。
いくらお嬢様でも、それはおよしになられた方が。
貴賓室って、今は鍵がかかってるんだっけ？鍵は？
鍵は、キーボックスにあったでしょうか。
多分、源氏様がご自分の席にしまわれていると思います。
マスターキーでも開くんでしょ？貸してよ。
そういうわけには、
It's an order as a fucking Ustromiya. Now do what I'm telling you to do, you servant.
お嬢様、好んで不吉な場所に近づくことはありません。
おいおい、人の家を勝手に不吉にするんじゃねえぜ。とにかく私は決めた。マスターキーが貸せないなら、貴賓室の鍵はあるでしょ？
Oh fuck, Jessica, they're telling you it's sure disaster.
貸して。
And you still want to do it. This bitch is hard-headed. To Jessica, the stubborn ass bitch. It was their two expressions that felt more like an ill omen than anything else did. It wasn't the witch or the VIP room that felt foreboding to Jessica. It was them, Maria and the others, who believed in witches. In the end, Jessica forced them to agree, and she made them bring her the key to the VIP room.
ベアトリーチェが本当に貴賓室に現れるかどうか肝試しをしたというわけか。
And because she's fed up.
そんなとこだぜ。しかし、私は何を意地になってたんだろうな。年派もいかないマリアとの喧嘩を引きずってたに違いない。
Oh, watch out, bitch! That lightning bolt. That's the snap of fear entering your heart. Of course, the weather had just gone to be terrible on the particular night. Just had to be terrible. To be honest, I slightly regretted sticking my nose into something so pointless. But I'd already said so much, and even borrowed the key from them. Yes, you're in too deep. You just gotta go with it. I couldn't just go to Shannon the next day. Let her ask me how it went. And answer, well, I got scared so I gave up. Teehee. That'd just be pathetic. Normally, I go to sleep long before 2 a.m. Oh shit. If mom found me wandering the corridors at that time of night, she'd definitely yell at me. So I waited in my room, staring at the hands of my clock as it ticked closer to 2 a.m. Outside, the rain was incredible and the wind strong. The swaying, rustling trees were particularly creepy. I'd complained to Shannon and Golda about making up ghost stories for my house, but I was starting to feel as though they had a bit of a place after all. Bitch, I mean, hey, you can stop whenever you want, but whatever. The Ushiromiya mansion is huge. Honestly, I can't think of the entire mansion as my own house. As mom says, the hallways of the Ushiromiya mansion should be treated like public roads. In other words, my own room is part of my home, but the hallways and the rooms I don't usually enter are outside. So while part of me felt that this VIP room ghost story was ridiculous, The other part of me was so creeped out that it kept trying to convince itself that the first part of me was right. 10 to 2. If I want to greet 2 a.m. inside the VIP room, I need to have already gone in there before then.
行くか。
Time to build some courage, bitch. Go!
悪いが、私も意地だぞ。
You're the one who's you're doing this to yourself, girl. Nothing's going to happen. I know that. It'll just be a stupid waste of time for a few minutes. Something happened, didn't it? She's gonna see a butterfly, or the window's gonna open. I touched the doorknob to the door of my room and was startled by how unpleasantly cold it was. Oh. As long as I stayed in this room, I could laugh off anything. After all, this was my room. But it wouldn't be like that in the hallway. That's outside my territory. And the doorknob, the barrier between the two, was ice cold. Idiots. What are you so scared of? Me? You weren't taking Shannon, Golda-san's, or maybe Kumasawa-san's gossip seriously, are you? I'll prove it. There's nothing strange in the VIP room. Alright, let's see. The corner was only dimly lit, and the hallways were brighter before lights out. But to avoid wasting energy or something like that, we kept the lights to a minimum at night. So even though I was inside my own house, it was very obviously the middle of the night here. If Mom found out that I was wandering around at a time like this to do a test of courage in the VIP room, which I'm not supposed to go in, I'd get in a lot of trouble. Yeah, you'd get your ass whooped. To make sure she didn't find out, I tried to hide my breathing and my footsteps. So the silence felt unbelievably loud. Even though it was so quiet, the eerie sound of the wind was loud in my ears. I mean, it's loud in my bitch. Is a window open? That shit loud as fuck. Are the walls like are they not there? The sound of twigs rustling. The sound of some pillar in this old mansion creaking. What's that sound? Like a beak tapping against glass. Though it was quiet, all of the little suspicious sounds felt obnoxiously loud. They're only creepy because you're thinking of them in a creepy way. Damn, I'm an idiot. Why couldn't I have brought a flashlight at least? You didn't think to? A flashlight to use inside my own house? That's even more idiotic. I mumbled this to myself, hoping it would drown out the sound of the wind just a little. Then, I saw it. The door to the VIP room. Is it this one? The VIP room was supposedly reserved for important guests. However, as far as I knew, it had never been used. Okay, what a meaningless room. You know, waste of resources. None of the guests who came to the mansion had ever been given the right to use this room. Like who? Though I'd been clutching the key all this time, it didn't feel warm at all. What if, the president of Japan came here? Or the prime minister? The icy metal tormented me ruthlessly. Maybe that was a warning. If you go back to your comfortable room and hide in your bed, this night will pass like any other.
バカにすんじゃねえぜ。ここまで来て、今さら引き下がれるかってんだ。
The key had been freezing in my hand, urging me to go back. But the keyhole made no further attempt to stop me. Curiosity killed the fucking cat. This bitch about to die. All that's left is to turn the knob, open the door, and I'll be inside the VIP room. It's not like I've never been in the VIP room. Long ago, when I would often play hide and seek or go exploring, this room that I rarely entered seemed unusual and exciting. However, I got in trouble for going in, and was told that this room was important, so one mustn't enter without reason. After that, they made a rule of locking up unused rooms, and I couldn't go in anymore. So, it's probably been several years since I last went into the VIP room. In fact, it might be even more than a decade. The inside of the room is probably different from how it was when I knew of it. Come to think of it, even then, I felt that there was something unsettling about this room. Slowly, I pushed the door open. It was light, and even after I let go of it, I kept opening it kept opening by itself, as though beckoning me in. Damn, bitch. Beyond it was a darkness as thick and heavy as ink. Even the dim light that seeped in from the corridor seemed bright in contrast. Swallowing hard, I stuck my head in, feeling about for the light switch next to the doorway. This was horribly unnatural and an awkward way to do it. All I really had to do was step inside and search for the switch from there. Unwilling to take even a single step into the room, I timidly stuck just my arm into the darkness and felt along the wall. Click. The switch, which was hardly ever used, felt stiff and lifeless. However, once the light turned on, the darkness vanished in an instant. And there, exactly as it had been, as though not a thing had changed at all in these years, was the VIP room. The curtain and bed cover might have been slightly different, and maybe the chairs and the like had changed too. Still, if I had to put it into words, I'd call it the feel. The stiff, lifeless feel of this room hadn't changed. If I hang around here, someone might find me. I'd rather not have mom and dad find me here. Or just mom. I readied myself, and though I hadn't even been able to bring myself to enter this room with the lights out, I finally entered. Okay, is it 2 a.m. now? As soon as I closed the door, I felt an oppressive, suffocating sensation. Alright, I've shut myself in the VIP room. Come out, Beatrice.
今何分だ?
What time is it? I looked around the room, but I couldn't see any clock. I'm not in the habit of wearing a watch around the house. Damn. Now I'm not sure what time it is. Still, I know it's only a few minutes at most. I tried to suppress my desire to use going to get a clock as an excuse to run away from this place. Even so, just standing around like this was boring. When I looked around again, searching for something to sit on, I found something strange.
なんだよ、これ.
Something strange? What the fuck? It had been placed on the side table next to the bed. Hold on. If this room had been used often by someone, I'd have thought it was just one of their personal belongings. But there was no one living in this room, so it was impossible for this to belong to the room's owner.
お供えかよ。気持ち悪いぜ。
It didn't look like an offering. A small French doll was sitting on the side table. The doll's hair was gold. It was wearing a black dress. Just who managed to find this doll and where? There's no doubt that someone placed the doll here to symbolize Beatrice. Does that mean this doll is supposed to be the owner of this room or something? And as though it was an offering to that owner, there sat a small plate with several cookies and wrapped chocolates. It was all set out neatly, and there was no dust piled upon the doll. What? Hold on, let me read that again. I'm clicking the log so many times now. Several cookies and wrapped chocolates. So this was put very recently then. In other words, both the doll and the offerings were being taken care of on a regular basis by the servants, and kept in good condition, along with the rest of the room. Taken care of? No, it was more than that. It looked like an offering, no, like some sort of worship. A prayer saying, "Please don't curse us." So, while the doll was eerie enough by itself, psychologically, it was even more unnerving to think about how it must have been kept safe and worshipped in a place like this.
バカバカしいぜ。たたらないでくださいって、柏手でも打つのかよ。
Jessica forced herself to look away from the bizarre doll. She couldn't bring herself to sit on a bed that wasn't hers. Then again, she didn't really feel like sitting down on the chair either. She had lost any desire to sit on anything in this room. Ooh, the winds, wandering about aimlessly. I peeked out the window, through the gaps in the curtains, to stare at the dark, rainy night. Bitch, you're just gonna scare yourself. What the hell am I doing? Hanging about in the VIP room, this late, just because that fight with Maria is still eating at me? This is beyond stupid. I'm disappointed in myself. Beatrice, huh? Just when did that strange witch start living in this mansion? Grandfather's always yelling about Beatrice. Since it's apparently the name of his dead mistress, people started talking about how her ghost must haunt the mansion. There's that kid's horror story about the witch in the forest, which might be a ghost story made by the adults to stop the kids from going on in there. The portrait grandfather had hung in April was really striking. And there was also that weird epitaph. The creepy words on that, which sounded like some sort of ritual with human sacrifices, made the name of Beatrice seem all the more unnerving. At some point, those stories mixed together, and they now say that the witch Beatrice exists. I don't believe in Beatrice, because I know she's just a fictional person made by the fusion of a few horror stories. Right, she is. The Beatrice who was grandfather's mistress probably did exist, but she wasn't a witch. Well, he called her one. The story of the witch of the forest was made up by the adults to prevent their kids from getting lost in the woods. But that was just a made-up story, not reality. In fact, I've heard that kids were once threatened about wolves living in the forest. Apparently, the kids realized that wolves couldn't exist on the island, so it was changed to the witch. When the portrait was hung, that once vague character suddenly had a face. Oops. And people acted as though she'd been around since long ago. That's right, it's all a ghost story someone made, a fiction. And Maria calls Beatrice her best friend, and the servants worship her like a household name, shrine. I just don't get it, and it creeps me out. Oh shit, it's getting juicy. The center ring of the phone made me jump so hard I thought my heart would explode. I don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe in any of this shit, but this is when you fucking get the fuck out. Like, you did it. You did whatever it is that you wanted to do, you did it. The sudden ring of the phone made me jump so hard I thought my heart would explode. There was a phone on the table. On the bedside table. Across from the one with a doll. And it was ringing noisily. However, I was only surprised by the first ring. By the time it had rung 3 times, I had regained my cool enough to grumble about this being a prank done by someone trying to scare me. Are you gonna pick it up? Dude, imagine she picks it up and she hears Beatrice. If I rush to pick it up, I'll probably hear someone laughing at me saying, "Were you scared?" I thought about ignoring it instead, but it kept on ringing incessantly. It's a pretty loud sound to have going on and on this late at night. If Mom somehow manages to hear it from her room, I'm screwed.
Hey, 取るぜ。
What if it's Mom?
ああ、驚いたとでも言いやいいんだろ。
Dude, oh fuck, I didn't think they'd get this. It is so fucking creepy right now, and I love it. I haven't felt this creeped out by UMINEKO since episode 1. I'm getting freaked out right now, and I fucking love it. I'll just say, that surprised me. Wow. Oh shit, I'm sick, I'm sorry. And maybe follow up with that, looks like Beatrice didn't show up after all. After all, this is my victory, in a sense. Okay.
もしもし。
Oh shit, hold on. Alright, pay close attention, let's see.
ベアトリーチェ、こんにちは。
That is just as creepy because these telephone lines only work from inside the mansion and she left days ago.
マリア？
I don't get it. Did I hear that wrong? Why would Maria be calling here?
もしもし？
この間は楽しいお歌を聴かせてく
Okay, so she's ignoring Jessica. The voice, the intonation, the manner of speech, all of it clearly belonged to Maria. But what's she talking about? All by herself. Also, this song is fucking hot. Didn't this have Happy Maria? Doesn't it have like a lyric version? I love it. Just Maria just kept on talking happily as I stood there, stunned and unable to interrupt. Eventually, Maria started singing an old familiar kids song that even I knew. Wait a minute. Wait, isn't this familiar? She did this before in episode 1 when she was when Nanjo, Genji, Kumasawa, when they all died. She was doing this. Wait a minute. Wait. Wasn't she on the phone when she was doing that? But no. Was she on the phone? No, she wasn't, right? I was gonna say, is there some time travel shit going on? I don't get it either, and I'm getting a little creeped out. The voice, the lights, everything disappeared. In the pitch black, I couldn't see anything. Couldn't tell what was happening. I don't get it. What's going on? Oh, girl, you should have just gotten the fuck out. What the fuck? Bitch, what the fuck? That was Maria singing from episode 1 when everyone died. In the final twilight. Does being in darkness really slow us humans down so much? I know it's dark, but I really do have absolutely no idea what just happened. What was that shuffling sound just now? I'm not sure. I can't explain it. It was a loud sound, like someone crawling out of bed. I want to say something as committal as I felt like I heard it. I wouldn't say something as vague as I sensed a presence. I definitely heard it, right next to me, clearly. However, there was no change to the bed. No one had been sleeping there in the first place, and the sheets were still perfectly straight. Someone had crawled out of the bed and had laughed in a creepy voice before leaving the room. That's what it felt like. Felt like? I'm here, and the bed's right there. I'm not only in the same room, I'm right next to it. So why am I so unsure about what happened just a few seconds ago? Because you can't believe it. I gripped the receiver, which had gone completely silent, and waited there alone, unable to move, in a quiet room that seemed exactly identical to the one I had first entered. What? Huh. What? If nothing had changed since the beginning, I could just pretend that the last minute or so didn't happen. However, if something had changed, that would be proof that something really did happen. Did it fall to the floor? No, it's not there. No matter where I look, from whatever angle, it's not there. Though the offering plate with the cookies and chocolate is still there, the thing they were being offered to, the doll, is gone. Damn, bitch, they hit us with the sound effect, bitch, that boom? They hit us with that creepy ass shit. Then, what just happened? Is the Beatrice Sama doll supposed to have cackled out loud and left the room? Yo, maybe that is what happened. No, that crawling sound was too loud to have been made by a doll. It was a noisy sort of sound, like a kid playing with a blanket and using it as a cape. Then what? Is that Beatrice Sama doll supposed to have turned into a human and then run cackling from the room? Hey, that would be creepy. After that, nothing happened. The doll alone disappeared, and nothing else changed. In a VIP room that had remained completely unchanged and was filled only with the sound of wind and rain, I stood there, too shocked to move. And Maria singing.
人形は結局見つかったのか？
物陰からベッドの下まで探したさ。それこそ中に入り込んでまで。でも 見つからなかった。
一体あの部屋で何があったと考えてる？
ベアトリーチェ様のたたりなんて思いはしねえぜ。あるいは使用人の誰かのいたずらだったかもしれね
いたずら？
え。マリアの声はあらかじめカセットテープにでも取ってあって、それを午前2時ちょうどに電話して再生ボタンを押した。そしてほどほどのところで配電盤か何かで停電させた。
Right.
それからあらかじめ貴賓室のどこかに隠れてた誰かが気持ち悪く笑いながら人形を持って出て行った。そう考えりゃ辻褄は合うぜ。
It does fit.
釈然とはしてないようだな。
そりゃそうだろう。だってこれが私を脅かすためのいたずらだとしたら大掛かりが過ぎるぜ。
But hey, they have to keep the legend alive. If we're arguing it on the human side. They made Maria sing beforehand and recorded it. Then, someone called the VIP room and replayed that recording. Then someone waited until exactly the right time and tripped the breaker for the VIP room. To turn off the power in the VIP room, you'd have to go all the way down to the basement. There's a breaker box down in the boiler room. There's no phone line down there, so you'd need a different person to play back Maria's tape. And you'd need another person to hide in the VIP room and cackle before leaving. Okay. And just how long would this last person have to hide in the VIP room beforehand? How long would they have to hide in this pitch black room? Under the bed, for example. Waiting to scare Jessica, who might or might not come.
魔女のたたりなんてあるわけもねえぜ。でもよ、人間のいたずらだと考えて、それだけの人間が緻密に示し合わせて、私を驚かせるためだけに何時間も暗闇で待ち構えてたって考える方が、私はよっぽど薄気味悪いぜ。
同感だな。いっそたたりの方がマシだ。そのことを後日使用人たちには聞いたのか？
聞いたってとぼけるに決まってるぜ。それに最低3人だぜ。あの日は源氏さんと郷田さんと熊沢さんとシャノンの4人が泊まってた。そのうちの3人があんな薄気味悪いいたずらに加担したってのか？わけわかんねえ。だから私は聞けなかった。
True, it had been a strange experience for her, but it wasn't something completely impossible for humans to do. Even so, it really must have been more unnerving to imagine a large number of people planning so carefully just to scare Jessica. It's no surprise that she found it this scarier than Beatrice's curse. Wow.
今でも使用人たちがお前をはめたと信じてるか？
いや、多分ビビっちまった私の勘違いなんだよ。きっと人形はどこかに転げ落ちて、私がたまたまそれを見つけられなかっただけなんだ。
すべて気のせいだったと言いたいのか？
人形が消えた以外何の変化も証拠もない。マリアにも後日聞いたけど、歌のことも電話のことも知らないと言われた。とぼけたのか本当に知らないのかはわからないけれど、とにかくあの晩のあの出来事は私が確かにあったと言い張ってるだけで何も証明することができない。
皮肉だな。たとえお前が本当にベアトリーチェに会ったと言っても、それを証明できないのと同じだ。
しばらくはショックだったけど、時間が経って、あれは臆病な私が落雷か何かで一瞬だけ停電したのにびっくりして、庭木の枝がちぎれてバサバサ落ちる音を誤解したんじゃないかなって思えるようになった。
Damn, she's coming up with good explanations.
笑い声。
変な鳥の鳴き声とか、とにかくそう聞こえてしまう何かの聞き間違いだったかもしれねえ。私は強がってるだけで、 本当は信じられないくらい臆病だったんだ。
Okay, this doesn't explain the biggest thing, the doll
だから
disappearing.
あんなことがあったように誤解してしまったんだ。そう考えるようにして、あの晩のことを忘れようと自分に強く言い聞かせた。
すべては闇の中か。
人間忘れようと思えば結構できるもんだよな。以来ベアトリーチェという言葉を聞くたびに嫌な気持ちがこみ上げる。でもそれを顔に出さないように努めてる。おしまい。私に話せるのはこの程度の話だけだぜ。情けない話だから誰にも内緒に。私がビビリだったって誰にも知られたくねえからな。
わかった。最後に一つだけ質問したい。
貴賓室のことで？
違う。食堂でのことだ。
食堂？
お前の階段の直前の親族会議の日、食堂には親族全員が揃ったな。
ああ、当時はまだバトラは戻ってなかったけど、それ以外は全員いたよ。もちろんじいさまは除くぜ。
演者は腹痛で空席だった。それはお前の隣の席だな。
そうだぜ。
それはお前の右の席だったか。
そうだぜ。右の席だよ。それが何か？あれ？おかしいな。どうして右？
I forgot which way is she again? Jessica, is Jessica on the left side? If I'm looking at Ginzo right, is she to the left or to the right? I don't know how to explain myself.
十分だ。
So Anji was to the right of where Jessica would
無理
be.
に考えるな。頭痛になる。
Now then, I do remember they have a hierarchy. Would that mean that Anji is, again, the closer you are to Ginzo, right, in the seating arrangement, the higher status you have. Now then, so it would be Ginzo, then it would be Kraus, then Jessica. However, if I'm right, if I'm reading it right, then her right would be the second one. But isn't that where Ava and George would be?
どうしたんだいジェシカ。何を悩んでるんだい？
いや、右、左。
おかしなジェシカ。どうビル？
Yo, if I'm getting that right, can somebody explain to me exactly what the seating was?
ジョージ兄さんやジェシカに何か聞けました？
まずだ。
I'll look it up, maybe.
ベアトリーチェの階段はなかなか面白かった。
階段？どんな話ですか？
午前2時の貴賓室にベアトリーチェの亡霊が現れるという話だ。なかなかおっかない話だったぞ。
初耳です。誰が言い出した話か知りませんけど、仮にも当主様の恩人を階段にしてしまうなんて失礼な話ですね。
模範解答だな。
Maybe Leon was a part of it.
何か？
リオンは碑文はわかるか？
碑文？何の話です？
Is she gonna pinch him?
ベアトリーチェ
She got a
の
little
肖
too
像画のところ
close.
にある例の碑文だ。
すみません。何のことかさっぱり。
懐かしき故郷を貫く鮎の川。
何ですか？それは。
お前の、いや、この世界には肖像画はあるのに碑文はねえのか？
玄関ホールに掲げられてるベアトリーチェの大きな肖像画は、私しかし、碑文の話はわかりません。何の話です？
面白い違いだ。リオンはずっと六軒島で暮らしてきた。
無論です。それが何か？
子供の頃、森には近づくなと脅されてたはずだ。
ええ、迷子になって危ないから決して近づくなと昔から。
森には魔女が出ると。
魔女？何の話です？
黄金の魔女にして六軒島の夜の支配者ベアトリーチェ。
ベアトリーチェはおじい様の恩人です。それを魔女だか妖怪だかのように扱うのは少々失礼かと思いますが。
魔女のベアトリーチェは知らないと。
黄金と共に潜水艦でやってきたベアトリーチェと隠し屋敷で育ったその娘の話は知っていますよ。あなたと一緒にさっき知ったではありませんか。それがいつ魔女になったんです？
なるほど、そうきたか。では森に入ると何が出ると脅された？
森には狼が住んでるから近寄るなと。
魔女でなく狼か。なるほどな、面白い。
私は面白くありません。何の話です？魔女って何のことですか？
こっちの話。
So he really doesn't know about... Wow, that's weird.
最後にもう一つ聞きて。
どうぞ。
親族会議の食堂でお前の右には誰が座ってる？
私の向かいは妹のジェシカ。その次の序列はエヴァおばさんの息子になります。だからジョージ兄さんですけれど、それが何か？
Okay, so it's Kinzo, then to Kinzo's right is Leon, which would be the highest in the hierarchy aside from him. Then in front of Leon is Jessica, and then to Leon's right, which is going down one, is George. But that would mean that nobody is on Jessica's right, because she said it was her right. So if she said that Angie was to her right, that would be off of the table, because there would be no more chairs there. The only other chair is the one to her left. So she's sitting next to Ginzo pretty much?
なるほどな。紛らわしく入り混じってやがる。だが面白い。
私には全然さっぱりですが。
Huh. Wow, here's the culprit. I wish I could read this one, but I'll have to do it tomorrow, maybe. I hate to say this, but in a way, this is the most interesting episode. Not that I don't like the other ones, or I thought they were too confusing or not interesting, but the way it's all presented is just so different. They're presenting everything and letting you come up with the theories. Besides that, I want to know this. Am I right? So Ginzo is the head, right? And Ginzo would be considered at, if we were going to put this from like vertically, he would be the very top of the table, right? And to Ginzo's right, Leon. And to Leon's front is Jessica. And to Leon's right, now then, to Jessica's right would be nothing. That's the end of what's it called? The table. To her front right, I guess it would call it. Or to the end of the table would be Ginzo. But she said that her right is Anja. Why was that? What's going on there? I don't know.